Hello,
Hi.
Morning.
how are you?
Yeah, just fine. It's okay. And
Good,
you?
good, perfect.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Yeah.
I've been locked in this house since February the 20th, and I'm getting a little bored.
Why, has the house moved at all or what?
Why is my?
Can you hear me, Charlie?
I'm not sure if I hear you, Irfan.
There's my video.
All right. Irfan, can you hear me? No?
I can hear you.
I know
Yeah,
that.
me
I can
too.
hear you.
It's frozen.
It seems that Irfan is frozen at the moment,
Yeah.
which
You have
Can
to
you?
have, you have to have pieces of paper ready to go.
There we
Turn
go.
on your microphone.
all right. Well, while he's busy doing that, how are you guys doing?
Can you can you hear me now?
Can I? Yeah, not very loud though.
He's loud on my end.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
All right. Must be my ears. Getting old.
yeah.
So hi Charlie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Bill, Gosta? How are you guys? Everybody good?
Wonderful.
Good to see you guys.
So, Bill, you're still down in Mexico or you up in Texas?
No, I'm in Mexico.
Oh, okay. When are
It's
they
safer here.
when are they supposed to start doing shots in Mexico?
I don't know that they are.
Oh, okay.
I haven't heard anything about
Is
vaccines
that
in
right?
Mexico.
Wow.
I don't know.
Costa, are they doing anything in Sweden?
Soon.
When are they starting
they-
there?
They said that it's okay to start now. It was just announced today, so it will probably come just after Christmas or something.
Okay.
How about in Colorado? Is it started yet?
Yeah,
They
it
started?
started last week actually. So they now have both vaccines going out, and I don't know how long. In Colorado, they are going to take people 75 and older. And so for someone like me, it may not be until the spring or early summer before they get to me. Which
Oh, I see.
in other states, they're doing it earlier for my age group. Colorado decided not to. So who knows? What about in Pakistan? What's the situation there?
The situation we are just hearing that the trials are going on, the vaccine, they are planning to bring them in, but nothing solid yet. So I don't know, maybe January probably.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy once they're done with all of this so that we can start getting around and maybe doing a show or just being able to go out to a restaurant and not have to concern myself.
I'm
Exactly.
concerned about these new strains of virus, of COVID.
Yeah, I've been watching about it. They say they're definitely they spread faster, but they affect the
Yeah.
young a lot more so.
Right.
I don't have to worry about the young part. So
Well, that's going to affect your mind first. It's only your body that's old.
yeah, well, my mind is still in the gutter and it's still quite young, but that's all right.
But there's been no mention whether the current coronavirus vaccines are going to work on the new strain. That's what's got me worried.
Yeah, but I've been listening to some of the quote unquote the experts, and they don't really think it's going to be an issue as far as that goes. They feel that although it's a bit of a mutation,
Yeah.
it's still the same virus. It's just acting a little differently.
Yeah.
And they totally feel that the vaccine will work. We had a friend who is a frontline worker. She's a nurse, and so she got her vaccine yesterday, the first shot. And so we'll see what happens in that respect. But certainly I'm interested in hearing from her whether she gets any kind of reaction to it or not.
Yeah. Are you traveling?
Nope. Have
Me
nothing
neither.
to travel to. I mean,
I am getting calls all over the place. People calling, but I'm telling them I can't.
well,
I had an opportunity to go to San Diego, which is okay. I can travel across Mexico. So I can go to Tijuana and cross the border.
right.
California has a 14-day rule.
And
I
that's
can't leave California for 14 days.
well, so I did travel back in August. I flew to Detroit and drove down to Ohio,
Mhm.
did a workshop, a consulting job there, then flew on to Pennsylvania, did a job there, came back, and then I did a small road trip to Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska.
Mhm.
That's been it. Since
Yeah.
August, I haven't left. And prior to August, I was home from March 4th when I came back from Egypt until about the middle of August. So,
Yeah.
and now, quite honestly, I wouldn't travel right now with everything
No.
spiking the way it is. You got to
I'm
be
not
out of your mind.
Yeah.
There's just no reason to push the envelope. So I'm not even trying to find any consulting work or anything else. I'm happy to do webinars online.
Yeah.
No problem. I'm going to be doing a couple for the DAX show. Going to be doing a couple for the ISS show, which those are different. The ISS ones are recorded. Did you
Yeah.
get to do any of them?
I used to do them all the time back in the 60s,
Well,
70s.
No, well,
80s.
yeah. I mean, the two that I just did, I actually
the
had to
60s.
record.
The 70s and 80s. They didn't exist in the 60s.
No, they didn't.
Do you think the IS is going to continue? They moved their date in April. We
Yes.
were just very.
Yeah, they moved the Long Beach show to April, which is a smart move because that is the best show in the world right now.
Right.
And so having it, they were trying to have it in January, and it was like, are you kidding? Even April, I think, might be a bit of a push. And I understand FESPA moved theirs to October.
Yeah, they did.
And so
October 11th, 12th, something.
yeah, I've got the dates, but
Yeah.
which makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anything before the end of March or beginning of April is kind of risky.
Mhm.
Again, a lot of it comes down to vaccinations and how big a venue it is. I mean, like the DAX show is a couple of thousand people,
Mhm.
not too bad. And then you look at SGIA and FESPA, and you're looking at 20 some odd thousand people. That's a whole different deal, and it's
Yeah.
worldwide. So the chances of something happening at those is that much greater. And quite
Oh,
honestly,
yeah.
I don't think I'd go to either one unless I got vaccinated.
Yeah.
I
I'm not
said-
sure what's going to happen with Mexico. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Do you know? Did they book you?
Well, obviously they canceled the one that was supposed to
Yeah.
be. My guess is they're going to rebook it to the same time that's supposed to have been this year to next year, which would be September, roughly.
Right.
End of August, September. I don't see where that's going to be an issue unless
Yeah.
Mexico doesn't do any vaccinating.
Well, Mexico's not going to allow. I mean, that Mexico's closed their borders.
Right.
And so you can't get in here. I can't even get out because if I get out, I can't come back.
I have people who get it. I know people who've been to Mexico just recently.
Yeah, if it's essential business.
Oh, no, they went there on vacation.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, they flew in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the border. The border is driving across.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just consider anything in the way of travel
Yeah,
exactly what it is, travel.
yeah. You can't come in by boat, train, car, or walking right now. You
Okay.
can come in by planes, but that's the only thing.
And are they checking at the airports for temperature
Yeah.
or any of that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, I know, what's it, 30 or 40 countries have closed the border, have closed flights in from London,
Mhm.
but not the US,
Yeah.
which doesn't.
I don't know if you know, you know Said over in
What
Mauritius?
I'm feeling.
Sorry?
Do you know Said in Mauritius Island, Isla?
Irfan.
Sorry, yes?
Bill had a question for you.
No, I was asking you.
Oh, do I know them?
Yeah.
You know, I'm terrible with names. I'm good with faces. So if I can see their faces, I can tell you based on.
Well, you know where the island of Mauritius is, right? Off the coast of Africa.
Okay.
They've only had 10 deaths in the whole country, the whole island. Now, that would be the place to go.
Well, you know,
And
New Zealand would be the place to go. They have 0 now,
Zero,
but
exactly.
they're not letting anybody in. So
No, neither is Australia.
same with
Right.
Tasmania. Tasmania has no victims and no
Right.
illness at all.
well, Tasmania is right off of Australia, and certainly that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they,
had
they
I
just
don't think Tasmania
they
gets a
said
whole lot of anything going on.
they cut the lines to Australia and just drifting away. They said they're not taking anybody off or on Tasmania until this.
Well, I just
Settled.
find it interesting that the US is allowing flights in from London. Now, in New York, they're meeting them at the gate and checking them.
Yeah.
But we have flights in Denver direct from London. And I
Yeah.
have no idea what they're doing here.
Costa, where are you from? Where are you at?
Uppsala, Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a few people here in Cuernavaca, Mexico from Sweden.
Yeah, and I heard that the way to go to or from Mexico is in a tunnel.
A tunnel?
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that tunnel.
Didn't
Oh,
never,
the one on the border. He's talking about the underground border.
the tunnel is only if you're taking drugs with you.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, that's why. Okay.
Yeah. I thought he was talking about a tunnel in Mexico. I'm like,
Well,
tunnel,
he
that's
is.
New York.
It's just that you got to be on your hands and knees on it. Well, I don't know. Actually, they made it big enough so you can walk through it.
You can ride a motorcycle like Chapo did.
Well, there you go. I mean, you got to be able to drag those drugs somehow, you know.
But
course.
you know the
We have seen movies, they are moving rail carts across the tunnels and doing all sorts of trades. And that was really surprising.
Well, you know, what's interesting is now that quote unquote, the federal government is approving pot to
Yeah.
all states, that's going to definitely impact a lot of the boys down in Mexico.
yeah.
It will.
But
You know, I
but
mean,
the majority of
why not?
the majority of Mexico doesn't really grow a lot of pot. You know,
No.
we bring the pot in from South America here, but the real problem is in the synthetic drugs because they're being manufactured in Mexico, you know, by the cartels. So that's the real problem, not marijuana. And there's a lot more money to be made in synthetic drugs than in marijuana. So
Probably. Oh, without a doubt. Well, now
but
that
getting back to
have legalized it, it doesn't pay. Although Colorado actually has also legalized mushrooms,
yeah.
which
But getting back to consulting, you know, this whole Zoom, Skype, whatever has really altered everything for us as consultants, because I know you're doing consulting online. I'm doing consulting online. If I hadn't been able to do consulting online this year, I would have been broke.
well, I haven't done any yet. I offered it, but I haven't done any.
I've been doing 2 or 3 a month.
I have done 0.
Yeah. Well, I've been making an average of about $5,000 a month doing consulting online. You know,
I'm sitting here with donuts.
oh, you gotta get up there and tell people, you know, I saw on your website you're doing online training, so
It is
you're
on my
advertising it.
website. Yeah, and I have it on my website, but I need to actually push it a little bit harder. I just had that website redone, and so, or actually, it's a new website. So I need to get people onto it to actually
Yeah.
get some feedback as well.
Yeah. You know, I have another consultant who lives here in Cuernavaca that does consulting in, not in screen printing, but in apparel. And he spends most of his time in India, Pakistan, and up there where Irfan's from. But he goes into a lot of shops that are screen printing as well as manufacturing clothing. And his salary is paid for by the US government.
Huh.
Yeah, the US government pays him to go over there because all of our clothing is coming from Pakistan. I mean, a lot of it.
India.
And so his job is to go over there and make them more, effective and their manufacturing so that they can keep the price down, for export into the US. But I was amazed that the government was paying him, he's making, when he was really pumping, he was making about $1 million a year from the US government going to Pakistan, amazing.
I need to
What's
find
his
out
name?
who to speak to and try and get that situation.
I'll send you a DM. I got the name of the government people.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, they're still doing it. They send consultants all over the world to keep the manufacturing quality up and the price down,
Yeah, well, that makes sense, certainly.
You know what? In Pakistan recently, we have seen a lot of factories and a lot of people who are hiring consultants from abroad.
Yeah.
So you should take a look in that because they have been hiring people from Turkey a lot,
Mhm.
and
Turkey.
they have been Turkey.
I've done a
Recently,
lot of work in Turkey, so it's kind of funny that they're hiring people from Turkey.
They're hiring the people that you trained.
Probably so. I mean, that could very well be.
You trained yourself out of a job.
Those things do happen.
Yeah.
So, is it screen print factories or clothing factories?
I'm talking about screen printing factories.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. And I was surprised I met a few of them who were here, and I wanted to meet them and see what they're offering and what they are doing over here. And I was surprised to hear their knowledge and see, and I was also surprised to hear the amount of money that they were getting from the factories over here as compared to the work that they were giving. And I honestly asked him a question that all these things that you're telling me, the theory of a screen print, have you been able to implement any of that theory in the factory, or have you been able to get any practical result out of it? Because all that you're saying is in books, and I want to know about the practicality of what has been done. And I was surprised to hear that he told me that no, what I could do was I wrote them a manual, I guided them, and if they want to follow it, it's up to them. And I'm happy to do what I can. And I was shocked at what's going on in these people and everything. And that's how things are working. Because in Pakistan, there is a huge gap in screen printing. Charlie knows, he has been here. The people are doing screen printing. Over here, they just know that dropping the color down the screen is screen printing.
Yeah.
And people have their screen printing factories in size of a room as well, with the manual printing tables. Not everybody has automatics. They have the table system over here, and doing it at the prices that amazes us.
Yeah.
So there is a huge gap to make the people, give them the awareness that you can do a better work. So people are making money over here. So like screen printing factories, they are installing. I recently know a factory, they installed 12 ovals all at once.
Wow.
And they didn't have the team.
Well,
and they were like, we have the machine. What should we do now?
Well, machines are wonderful, but you definitely need to have a team that gets trained.
Yeah.
So,
And that was the problem. And
Oh, that's the screen print police, Richard Greaves.
yep.
So,
Must be in his.
Irfan,
He isn't putting any of his face on, so he must be sitting there with his underwear on.
I know. So Irfan, I judged the Screen Print India Awards a few years ago,
Mhm.
And we ended up giving a gold award for printing. We're blind. We don't know who the people are. We just see the product in front of us. And this guy was doing these little pieces of metal that were like A4 size, metal. And he was printing like 20 colors on them. It was an amazing amount of work that the guy put into it. And the printing was excellent. So we gave him a gold award, a special gold award. And then we find out after the judging is over that the guy is in an 8-foot by 10-foot shack in the middle of nowhere, somewhere around Delhi, outside of Delhi, that has a dirt floor. And he does all of his screens, exposes them by the sun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean-
there's nothing that says that you have to have fancy equipment. Of course,
No.
the thing about a smaller place is obviously the amount of work they can get out is not that big.
Yeah. But Charlie and I have both been in shops that are really small. They're doing excellent quality work in India and South America, Mexico, all over the world. You don't have to have millions of dollars worth of equipment to do the outstanding work. We know that.
No, you don't.
That's not needed at all. It's just the as you just said, you met someone in India, so it's the knowledge and the curiosity about the work that matters, honestly.
Yeah.
That if people want to do different things, we have been watching people doing some great work over here,
Yeah.
and the what can I say? The equipment has recently started to come in Pakistan, but the screen printing has been happening since ages. But still, the people have been doing great work. You find workshops or print factories small as the size of a room, but the work coming out of those are really good.
It's all the technical knowledge.
Yes, exactly.
Without the technical knowledge, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It
well,
doesn't
the technical knowledge, it's also customer demands. There are some customers that understand what they want and how to get to it, and there are others who have no clue. And unless you're a really accomplished screen printer, you can't really give them what they want.
I don't deal with the latter. I only want the former. No stupid people allowed.
I wish. The amazing thing, I mean, having been over to the other side of the world, showing them what to do is one thing,
Yep.
and getting them to stay on it after you leave, whole different deal.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to get started.
We're kind of started anyway.
Yeah. What's on the schedule? What's on the agenda?
We don't really have an agenda other than
Oh,
who
great.
we are, and we just kind of we can play it by ear, I guess would be
Okay.
a good way. So Irfan, since you're the guest, why don't you tell us more about your company? And are you the owner of the company?
Yes, I am the son of the owner. I am the second generation into this business.
Okay.
So basically, our background links to screen printing. We started heat transfer printing. My dad brought that heat transfer printing into Pakistan. He introduced that in 1993, and we were the first ones to bring this heat transfer over here. And that was the step which got us to grow big, and everything that is now is just around that. After that, we installed some octopus machines and automatic presses, and we went up to 9 automatic presses. At one point, we were the biggest commercial screen printing house in Pakistan. But then we switched to manufacturing of inks, and this has been around 15 years now. We started manufacturing inks. First of all, we hired some people, and those inks were for our own usage only. And then we realized that commercial screen printing in Pakistan is getting too much complicated and too much competitive. And then we backed out of that business and came into this 100%. Now we manufacture plastisoles, all different plastisoles, special effects, normal usage, high packs, anti-migrations, and specialty water-based products as well, like the gray blockers and the shimmers and high-end white paste, which is being used on the, automatic presses, because over here, Pakistan is a very big market for water-based products. But again, Pakistan is just learning more and more in water-based and plastic soles and screen printing day by day, because it's a very price competitive market. Everybody is looking for the prices. But recently we have seen a change in the, what can I say, the behavior of people. They are starting to know and starting to learn about better products and the advantages of using good products. At first, everybody used to say, oh, it's expensive, we want it cheaper. But now they are looking at the quality, because buying cheaper is good for the start, but when you go further, it gives you a dent, which is very bad.
Yeah.
So now they're learning that, okay, if we use a better product, if we use good quality product, that's better rather than buying a cheap one. Because at one point, there were products being sold in Pakistan. Even now, a lot of people use them, water-based products for hardly $2 kilo, $2 kilo, or you can say $7 to $8 a gallon, and they were happy to use those products. But those products landed some big troubles to some companies.
Yeah.
And some people are now investing a lot in machinery, and they are more interested in using better products. Because ultimately, what I believe is ultimately the better products give you more cost-effective results rather than the cheap product giving at the start.
Right.
When I was in Pakistan, what I came to realize was because labor is so inexpensive, there were way too many people involved with printing, and there were no procedures. Procedures were horrible. The cost of ink and the cost of anything else is not really the factor to me. The factor is efficiency and really having a trained staff that understands how to have things lined up so that they don't have as much downtime. And I was just amazed as to how poorly organized things were. No, I understand price, and certainly everybody would like to get a great quality product at a low price. The cost of a gallon of ink is not going to make you or break you. It's whether you can take it and do what you need in a timely manner and get the quality and the productivity that you need. And it's difficult to get that through some of the owners and managers of a shop, because they're only looking at what they're spending their money on in terms of the cost of ink, the cost of mesh, the cost of emulsion. And those are certainly factors, but they're not the overriding factor. They never have been, they never will be. A gallon of ink that costs twice as much, per garment, what does it come down to? Not even pennies, especially with water base. And so that isn't really the factor. But when I went over there, I'm sure I worked with a boss, and when I saw him later that year, he came to the U.S. or the following year. He said his production was up about 40%, which is a frightening thing that you were even down that far. I mean, you shouldn't be able to come up by 40%, to be honest with you. If you're seeing 10 and 15% increases in your productivity, I think that's fantastic. 40% is frightening because it means you were doing things so poorly that it was amazing.
Yeah.
And certainly, I haven't had the opportunity to work with any other shops in Pakistan, but having been to Bangladesh and Sri Lanka a number of times and going into those shops, and the shops were beautiful. I mean, they were really gorgeous shops for the most part. The visuals, the equipment. The problem was they were doing 3 and 4 strokes per color especially white, doing
On water bike?
3 to 4 strokes and having 3 screens. So it was triple stroke flash, triple stroke flash, triple stroke flash, and then color, color, color. And it's like, are you out of your minds? You know, the squeegees were horrible. Like I said, the shops were beautiful. They were absolutely gorgeous. Um, the equipment needed a cleaning because it's water-based ink. And to be honest with you, their squeegees and the heads of the machines were buried in ink. They should have been cleaned. It was one person per station just to move the ink around, which made no sense to me. And that's part of why I have my new wall, which I'm actually going to be demoing out this week and shooting, I hope this week, and shooting a video of it. And it was specifically because of water-based. I did test it, the old one, it tested well, but the new one has more adjustments to it. But, you know, going over there, I also brought along double squeegees. I brought along roller squeegees, demoed it, showed them. And then in the end, nobody wanted to buy anything. And it was kind of an interesting reasoning. Owners of the shops aren't even there. The owners are off in England or wherever. And so the managers of the companies didn't want to improve the productivity dramatically because it means that up until then, they weren't doing their job well. So rather than increasing their production, they just left things as is because the owners weren't complaining. And so why do something that's going to increase productivity if it's going to get you in trouble? Because the first thing the owner is going to do, since they know nothing, is say, well, if that product improved the productivity so much, why don't you have it sooner? Right? You know, it's always an interesting thing and somewhat of a dilemma because, you know, how do you tell someone, well, don't use it as well as you could and bring it up slowly? I mean, that's counterproductive as far as what, certainly as a consultant, what I'm about. You know, to me, it's go in and do whatever it is to increase productivity. And so if you work with an owner, it's not a problem. If you work with a manager, it doesn't fly. It just goes down the drain. And I don't know with Pakistan, because I've only done the one shop there, but certainly I would guess there was a particular gentleman that I didn't get a chance to really sit down and talk to at the last FESPA show, who was with a boss, who I guess just put in a very large factory at that time. And we were supposed to sit down and talk, and so supposed to sit down and talk. And of course, at a show, everything gets away. And in the end, we never got together. But my guess is if he's hanging out with a boss and listening to him, he probably is in trouble and probably needs some help somewhere along the line.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, even over here in Pakistan, it's a similar situation like you mentioned that's happening in Sri Lanka and India. There are people who are the owners of the screen printing shops and they are investing good amount. It's easier to convince them because they are directly looking at the production, they are directly looking at the goods and the bads of any product or you can say any material, and they have the comparisons hand to hand. They know what's going to save them time, what's going to save them results. But when you go to some factories where the screen printing setups are huge, they are huge screen printing setups now, but they're all run by managers and the owners are never there. They are just concerned with the results, not with how it's happening. So it's much more difficult to convince those managers and people in the screen printing department because as you said that some people are concerned that if they are going to improve drastically, it's going to alarm their owners. That's one concern. And secondly, people are happy with the way they are working. It's very difficult to move them, to convince them that it's going to save you more time, it's going to give you better results, because at the end of the day, the cost and the loss that's accumulating is going to be at the owner's head. So it's much more difficult. There are companies where there are good managers as well who know screen printing. You can convince them, but it's always a mixture of people in the industry.
You know, what I found interesting, so I went to the largest facility in Bangladesh, and theoretically, according to the manager, they produce about 350,000 prints a day, which is certainly a huge facility. 2 buildings, probably 8 floors of print tables, another, I guess they had about another 20 automatics. Huge place. Showed them how to use a double squeegee and a roller squeegee, which absolutely improved everything that they were doing. And their first question was, how much does it cost? And of course, a roller squeegee is about 300 and some odd dollars, and a double squeegee is 200 and some odd dollars. And of course, the interesting thing that they said was, oh, that's too much money. And I'm thinking, you have 20 automatics, you have 8 or 10 floors of print tables, you have 2 buildings, and you're going to tell me that that's too much money to spend to improve your productivity and your quality? You know, I have to admit, I didn't even know how to deal with that. Especially when I go into a factory that had just put another factory, they just put in a brand new 20, what was it, 18 color, 20 station automatic with 9 flash units on it. And I'm thinking, you have $75,000 worth of flash units, and you're worried about the cost of a $200 squeegee and a $300 roller? Are you kidding me? You know, and those are the things that are very difficult to understand and to get around. And it's because the managers didn't really want to improve their productivity that much, or the quality was beautiful. I couldn't knock the quality. It's just what it took to get to great quality that didn't make sense. The company that was doing a huge amount of Nike work, it was printing a pant leg, and they were using, it had to have black ink, and it was a double stroke of black flash, double stroke of black flash, double stroke of black. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? You put on 3 separate screens of the identical black with double strokes on each one. So I had him switch over to this double squeegee, and I saw him later that week. There was a big seminar that I had to do. And he said, wow, we used it and it improved our production by 25%. Okay, that was it. He never bought another one and never did anything with it. And I'm thinking, I don't understand that. You know, if it does work on one,
to ask him why was he using those 3 screens? What was the reason behind it?
Because he needed the black to be that strong. Okay. And it was a very long print. And I understand a little bit of it because Nike definitely has demands that you have to meet. But at the same time, this is a company that I think had 6 or 8 automatics. I don't recall. But they had one room of 3 of the long ovals, the big ones. And that's what they were printing this particular job on. And I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't you have double squeegees and roller squeegees for every machine? Not only that, but even for a bunch of different colors as opposed to just white. In his case, he was using it on black. No response. You know, improved by 25%, yes. Did you buy anything? No. Why not? And of course, I'm not there to do a follow-up or anything. And you know, the guys that I was with, did they do any follow-up? Nah, not really. They had one concern only, and that was to sell whatever product they were totally involved with, even though they would have been involved with this, but they didn't do anything about it.
I did some consulting
in
work.
that part of the world interesting because you don't get to speak to owners very often. When you do, things are much easier.
I did some consulting with Nike here in Mexico. And well, through a company that was printing for Nike, and Nike was there, okay? And they came in with documentation and they said, this is what you have to do. And the documentation was from Vietnam. And it was on the coast of Vietnam in a very humid area. And now we're in Mexico where it's a very dry, humidity here, we're dry compared to Vietnam. And they expected us to use those papers. And finally I got a guy that flew in for one day, and I set him down, an engineer from Nike. And I set him down, explained it to him. He said, well, that's interesting. You're correct. We're wrong. What do you suggest? And I said, we need to be printing. If we're going to print in Mexico, we need to print with the humidity in mind. So we did away with 90% of what Nike believed to be true, and we're instilling in shops all over the world. And they changed it,
Listen, I did a seminar years ago, and I was talking about wash tests. And I happened to mention that Nike at that time required one wash test. I said, how stupid is that? Anything could pass one. Well, I had two people from Nike in my seminar. I didn't realize it. So they went back, and then all of a sudden you had to buy Miele washing machines and go through 6 washes, or using the Miele at the high temperature and all that. And I think it's 2 or 3 washes. The Miele, of course, you're looking at a $3,500 washing machine now. And if you want to print for Nike, it's what you have to buy. But to me, it was like, how can a company like Nike say, do one wash test and you're done? Now, I printed for Nike back in the late 70s. And of course, back then, Nike didn't even have a design department. We actually had to do the designing for them. Yeah. And we never met each other. We were in Brooklyn, they were in Oregon, and everything was done over the phone because nobody wanted to spend the money to get on a plane and meet each other.
Yeah.
And at that time, that was my biggest order. That was 1977 or so, 1978. And it was a $60,000 custom t-shirt order for elite athletes for the 1980 Summer Olympics. And the funny thing was, that's the Olympics that the US boycotted because it was in Russia. So all the shirts that we did were then given out to all the elite athletes. I'm standing at the finish line of the New York Marathon in 1980, and all the front runners are all wearing the shirt that we did.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I know some of the people, and I knew some of the people at Nike, between some that are there now, some that have already left. They're a funny company. I mean, they do certain things really well, and then they drop the ball on other things that don't make any sense to me. But
same thing with Under Armour.
Oh, Under Armour is even worse.
Yeah.
I met with Under Armour. I was at a shop, and they had printed basketball jerseys on Under Armour garments. And while I was there, they got a call from the coach saying, these shirts are 3 inches too short. So my client's response was, okay, I'll redo them. And I said, no, wait a minute. Before you redo it, let's measure the shirt and let's run it through the dryer dry and see whether it shrinks or not based on the specs that we have. Ran it through, and we were a lot more careful. So it only shrank 2.5 inches. So I said, look, you got to call back the coach and offer him this. You can do it as tackle twill, but you can't do it as a screen print unless he doesn't have a problem with shorter shirts. I said, let's call Under Armour and see if we can get some answers. So we call Under Armour, and when you talk to the wall, what the answers that you get from the wall. So that's what we got from Under Armour. So about a month later, I was supposed to meet with some people from Under Armour at the SGIA show. And so the woman that I met with, I said, let me explain the problem that I ran into. I said, I called Under Armour and I went to the technical department and I couldn't get an answer. She said, don't feel bad. I work there and I can't get an answer. They've grown so quickly, but they don't have they don't have the back room knowledge of their own products. They have no idea how much things are going to shrink. They have no idea what temperatures they should be running in. I mean, they just totally dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody, since Nike apparel is so difficult to get, everybody's moved over to Under Armour, which of course makes sense. I mean, I keep getting people calling me saying, who can I buy Nike from? It's like, kiss it off, man. You're not buying Nike. But you can certainly buy Under Armour. All right. I have no idea who's,
That was Raib.
I know.
আজকে আমি লেটে গেছি এশা নামাজ পড়ে গেছিল এশা নামাজ পড়া রোবলে দুইটা রুটি বাজা দিয়া
Okay, you got me. Well, he's gone. I have
Your
no
mic
idea
is
what
on.
he said. I don't know what language it was, but if it was English, it was with a heavy
Charlie,
accent.
that was Bangla, Charlie.
Who?
That was Bangla. I'm pretty sure about it.
Oh, okay. I couldn't understand a word. Now I understand why I couldn't.
Irfan, what are your biggest technical difficulties in selling your inks to screen printers?
Biggest technical difficulty that we feel over here is convincing people and just giving them comparisons with the ink and just convincing them to move, because more than the results, it's difficult to change the mind of the people. Because if someone is, it's, you know, in Pakistan, it's very difficult to change the mind of the people because they are so much involved with the products that have been coming from ages and imported products such as the big names like the Avian Group and the others, that it's very, very difficult for them to understand the products that are being produced over here. Even our business, we supply to Pakistan, but we are doing much bigger business in the export market. The reason being, we supply to Europe, we supply to US, we have our own office, we started over there, and it's much easier to convince people over there because the owners are directly in the shop, and it's easier to give them the comparisons, the price comparisons. Whereas in Pakistan, it's a little bit more difficult. Then again, the export market is much more convenient when it comes to the payment terms and everything. So it's always our focus is always over there abroad because it keeps us safe rather than diving into the credits, which can last up to 150 days.
Probably, yeah.
I wonder what that means when Richard beeps his horn.
I have no idea.
He goes, beep, beep. I don't understand.
I don't either.
So Irfan, one of the things that I found out going into shops and talking ink, specifically ink, is that if you sell somebody a gallon of ink, and let's say that they've been using Avian or some other brand, you know, and they've been printing through a 156, okay, and they know what their results are. The problem is that the ink that they were using and your ink may not be ground, milled, is your words, milled the same, okay? And you require your inks to be printed through a slightly different mesh count. But if you sell them that gallon of ink, they're gonna think that they can take that 156 mesh and print both inks, and then they pick the best one. And we all know that every ink is milled differently. And and that changes the pigment size and, you know, the ingredient size, and they go through a different mesh count. Then it's too late at that point because they've already decided they don't like your ink. They like what they were using, okay? And so the only way to do that is to give them a specific mesh count to print your ink. If it's white ink, it needs to go through this. If it's a white poly ink, it needs to go through this. If it's a white non-phthalate, through this. And you have to give them very specific mesh counts. They have the mesh counts, they just won't use them. And they won't give your ink a true test.
One of the problems is, as you just mentioned, 100%, is that the people are not ready to follow the instructions. Like, I was recently in a shop, and they had a drying chamber and 2 automatic presses on each side.
Yeah.
One press was printing poly inks, and the other was printing discharge. And they both were running through the same dryer.
Side by side.
Side by side.
Yeah.
And when I told them, I was trying to convince them that, see, you are using my poly ink, the recommended temperature, it's a low cure ink. You can cure it at 155 degrees centigrade.
Yeah.
So he was like, but no, I cannot do that. I have to go up to 200 because I am using discharge. If I use this over there, how am I going to manage those? So now convincing him was a very difficult task. I had to show him, I requested him, okay, let's stop the discharge production for a second and let's see what good results can you get by lowering your temperature. Because dye migration never recommends you to go on the higher temperatures.
Right.
He was like, yes, Irfan, you're right. The result is good. I like your ink. But what about my other machine? I don't have 2 dryers. I have to use the same one.
Yeah.
And I was honestly speechless at that time. I was like, okay, then maybe we can use a gray blocker or other recommendations. But, the right thing to do was to lower the temperature of the dryer.
Right.
The problem starts with the designing. At the very base.
Exactly.
What I've seen is that the designing being used over here, as Charlie earlier mentioned, that somebody was doing 3 blacks, 2 strokes with 3 screens. Now that the people over here, they are using white with 3 screens, 3 strokes.
Oh,
That can reduce to 1 screen if the designing is proper.
Yep.
From what I saw, even if it's 2 screens, when you're using 3 screens with 3 to 4 strokes per screen, how do you get production? Even in talking to them, I said, how much production do you get off of a machine in a day, in a normal work day? And they said, oh, if we can get to 1,800 pieces, that would be fantastic. And I'm thinking, if you only got to 1,800 pieces, you should be shot.
That's an hour.
But when you're doing triple and quadruple strokes, and of course on MHMs and even on M&Rs now, you can do up to 5 strokes, I guess. Because you can do it, they do. And when I learned, it was on a precision oval, and it was real easy. It could only do 1 stroke, so you got it all done in 1 stroke, because of course, and times were different. I certainly wouldn't put them in the same category, but different inks obviously have different situations. And you're right, running poly and running a discharge at the same time is stupid, because you're going to sublimate your poly unless it's a really high energy poly, which probably it's not, because they're looking at price. So that creates a problem.
Let me jump on your word. What one word you said, stupid. We all know that the vast majority of people that are in business today are terrible about efficiency, effectiveness, and economic viability. The 3 E's of manufacturing. They've been around since 1933. But nobody understands that. And everything that we've been talking about is just a matter of efficiency and effectiveness in meeting the client's expectations and your expectations of margin, of course. And the economic viability, that's boils down to the price, is the third. It's the last. If you're not efficient, if you're making double strokes, triple strokes, 3 screens, you're not efficient, So the first thing you have to do in discussing with anybody is determine what they believe they're doing in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, and economic viability. It's all about doing the right things the right way every time. And if they can't do that, you might as well walk out the door because you can't help them until they change.
Change is always tough. Hey, Sean, how are you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Good. So have you played further with your 160? Why are you trying to hold a 1/4 point line on 160 mesh?
Because no one told me I couldn't.
I understand going to 230 and stuff, but at 160, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be trying a 1/4 point. I mean, it's not, it's not to say that it's impossible, but man, it's brutal.
We and I apologize because I put the wrong. I put our 230 mesh newtons down. We are running between 29 and 30. I would say 28 to 31 on our 160s, and we keep those fairly consistent.
Okay.
But I keep the horizontal line in my registration at a 0.25 because that way I know if we're getting a good clean out. At the times that I was running, we're getting it washed out, but we're still, I think, getting an undercure on that other side. And it makes me nervous when I can actually wipe off emulsion on the back side on the ink side of the screen.
I would agree with you on that. You know, you might get a hair, but it shouldn't be much. You know, so I asked Ross Balfour to send me some of the emulsion, et cetera, which he said he would. And I did watch the video. Of course, in that video, that was either a dual exposing or a diazo emulsion. It was green. So to me, what they were showing was not exactly what I would go along with. That being
Right.
said, you know, when Alan mentioned something about these newer emulsions being stronger, I've never washed the inside of a screen or the ink side of a screen with high pressure using a SBQ emulsion. Okay. They're saying now that you can. Great. That's part of why I want to get some of this emulsion in.
And we're using, I think he said he was sending you the PHU, but there's a PHU HR, which
Okay.
has, I believe, a little bit more solids in it.
Well, the one that he's sending me, he says is specifically geared to water base and discharge. So I'll work with that. But you know, over the years, I never really I wet both sides, but I always washed from the t-shirt side, not from the ink side.
And we water tank the before we start spraying it, so we're already loosened it up and everything.
You know, and even in the video, they're using a spray gun, you know, or a sprayer, not a high pressure washer. And so to me, a lot of what was in that video didn't really line up with the way I like to do things. And so that's why I want to play with them on my own. But certainly when I saw that you wanted to hold a 1/4 point line on a 160, using an inkjet film, probably not. If you went over to a thermal film or to something that came off of an image setter,
Like a
then
direct to
I can
screen.
understand you holding it because the line would be that much blacker or denser and sharper. You know, coming off of an inkjet, it's just not that sharp, and it's just not dense enough as far to effectively hold it. Or potentially you could, but I wouldn't put my money on that on a regular basis.
Got it.
An inkjet is incapable of producing a straight line. If you'll take a pencil, just take a pencil and draw a line on a piece of paper using a ruler, and then look at it under a magnifying glass, both sides of that line are not straight.
Right, they're not.
And so you're already defeating, yeah, on an image setter, it would be straight. So you're already higher resolution.
Well, that's
And so you're already defeating yourself by using inkjet if you're looking for a very thin line.
Yep.
Don't do it.
So my guy in Russia.
And then the second thing is, you know, we can talk about high solids content emulsion. That's a good thing. High solids content, I like, you know, it's really good. And it gives you good bridging across that mesh opening so that you can hold more detail. But what ink are you putting through? The viscosity of that ink is going to make or break that. Okay. So no matter how great that stencil is, no matter how much money you spend $80 on a gallon of emulsion, you're okay. But then you're putting an ink in there that, and it's not the ink, it's you. Okay. You have to get the viscosity right in your shop. The viscosity of the ink from the manufacturer is not the problem, because they're manufacturing inks for, like, say, automatics, and you're printing on a manual. There's a big difference, you know. So you have to change the viscosity of that ink to flow properly through that
Well,
emulsion to be
We're
able.
typically 75% water-based and discharge inks. So we rarely
Yeah.
do plastisol, but when we do plastisol, we'll use some reducers and things to, you know, we'll whip it up real good if we need to.
Water-based has viscosity. All inks, all liquids have a viscosity. And you can alter the viscosity of a water-based ink just as you can plastisol.
Yep.
So all inks are the same. But you need to watch that number, you know, that viscosity. It's important.
Great.
Now, you want to print that quarter inch line, as you're talking about. When you start printing circuit boards and they get down into a mill, a line that's 1 micron thick, okay, from left to right, they're able to hold that, and they're able to hold great detail on either side. And they're printing with a heavy paste, not water base, you know, not a thin runny ink. And they're able to achieve it, but they're on a flat surface. You have to keep in mind that if you're printing on textile, you know, you're going to lose the line in the wales, the deep areas, and hold it on the web, you know, on the thread, and it won't come out looking good. It's going to be hit and miss, hit and miss, hit and miss as it goes across the surface of that product substrate.
So my Artem from Russia, I don't know if you know him, but Artem runs 150 line
Oh,
head.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But having been there, he runs an image setter. So he holds his 150 line, no problem, because he's on a very dense, hard dot.
Yeah.
And you can't compare inkjet to what an image setter or even thermal. When we were doing the stuff at SGIA headquarters in the workshop, they were using a thermal printer. Well, thermal is still going to give you a really good dot or a really sharp deposit of an image
Mhm.
versus what an inkjet can do.
Right.
And
When my wife started her textile printing company back in the 80s, I was already the co-owner of a desktop publishing company where we had a Linotype Hell 300, you know, and we were producing for magazines and, you know, out in New York City, where they were paying $27 in New York City for a sheet, 8.5 by 11. We were doing it for $3. And so we got rich, okay, dealing with New York and the publisher in New York. But everything that we did to print on t-shirts was produced on a Linotype Hell, you know, Linotronics 300. And so we had better detail than everybody else in town. And so a guy walks in the door one day and he had went to our desktop publishing company and got Linotype output. He didn't tell them that it was for t-shirts. So they came in with a negative, okay? And I didn't want a negative, I wanted a positive.
right.
And so we had to reverse it. But it was at 300 lines per inch. And he wanted me to print on t-shirts. Thank God they were white, okay? And I said, I can't do that. You know, maybe I can, I don't know, but I don't want to print 300 line on a t-shirt. It's not going to work. You know, we're going to lose a lot of dots. He said, I don't want to go back and pay for another set of film. Just print it and I'll accept whatever you give me. And so, I mean, I pulled out the 355 count mesh and produced this job with black ink on a t-shirt thank God it was combed cotton. And I held it. I couldn't believe the amount of dots and the detail that we held coming off of Linotronics image setter and printing on combed cotton, 300 lines per inch, using, back then it was the best Ulano emulsion they had at the time, but it worked. So I printed 300 line halftones on a t-shirt, but I wouldn't want to do that every day.
Yeah, when I had my company and we were doing a bootleg rock and roll, I did have a huge camera, Robertson 480 low bed with a
I had one of those.
10 or 12 foot bellows with a 24 by 36 inch film capacity, and I had automatic processors. And so my film was ideal for what we were doing. And I had my screens back in the 70s made in Germany at 55 line.
Yeah.
Because in the US, they didn't have 55. They
No.
had 60, they actually had 133, which they shot at 200%. So you had a 66.5 line
Right.
screen. But things were crisp and sharp because you had to go to a negative and then from a negative to a positive.
Right.
And so you had what they call the hard dot as opposed to a soft dot.
Right.
Different deals. I'm anxious to play with the emulsion that they're sending, just
Mhm.
because I'd love to be able to shoot a screen using an SBQ emulsion and blast on both sides and see if it holds up the way I'd like it to. But I still don't think I would go with a 1/4 point line. Sorry.
Not on a t-shirt.
You know, it's like going with a 1/2 point line on 110, and yeah, you can see it until you touch it and it falls off.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think you have to just be realistic about what the capabilities are of each mesh count in terms of detail based on your output device. And in your case, it's a inkjet. And if you do go over to a direct to screen system, even there, I keep hearing all kinds of stuff. Oh yeah, we can do 85 line halftone, and maybe they can. Down to what size dot?
Yeah.
You know, what percentage can you hold? You know, the wax units are theoretically capable of holding an 85 line halftone. Theoretically, the inkjet, the liquid is not capable of that. Although when I worked with Richmond back in the day, they were claiming they can go up to 110 line halftone. I never really got to see it, and of course, those units are no longer available for the most part.
Riso says they can hold 133 lines per inch on their product.
Who does?
Riso. Japanese Riso.
Yeah, no, I know what the Riso is. I have never played with their unit, and certainly at shows they do not show it at 133.
I have a client in San Diego, California, who uses Riso, and he's been printing high resolution 4-color process on an automatic and with the Riso, and he's happy with it. You know?
I just don't know anyone who has one of those units. I just see them at the shows.
Yeah. Sean, are you married?
What mesh is your client using in San Diego while doing this CMYK?
Well, they only have 3 mesh counts. They've got their product is that they have a polymer that's already coated on the mesh when you buy the mesh. It's plastic. It's already on there. It's coated, pre-coated. And then you stretch the mesh. It will stretch a little bit, okay? So you can only stretch them up to about 20 newtons, okay, on the screen. And use them one time and you throw them away.
Right.
Because the Riso burns the image out, burns the polymer away from the mesh. It doesn't damage the mesh, but it burns the polymer away, giving you an image, okay? So, you know, they're using a pretty low count mesh, but it's the polymer that holds the detail. It's
Yeah,
not the mesh
I
count.
used to sell Riso units back when I owned a supply house,
Right,
and you used a bulb from the old cameras to
Yep.
expose your screen, and the
Flash.
carbon is what would go onto the mesh.
right. Graphene.
I think that's one of the reasons I kind of avoided dealing with or looking at a Riso unit was had a difficult time buying into their whole thing because their mesh was always on a low count.
Right. They've got one now that's higher, you know.
Is that right?
John, are you married? When you go home tonight, go into your wife's toiletry items and look at things like her fingernail polish and look at the bottle and try to read the print on that bottle.
I know I can't unless I'm wearing glasses.
Well, exactly. You need a magnifying glass to read it. That's screen printed on that bottle, okay? So if you're printing on glass or smooth surfaces, you can get away with those lines being straight. Now, there's a trick when you're printing bottles, bottle printing on vials, hypodermic needles, perfume bottles, you know, the little print, because in Roman characters, they're either straight up and down or left to right, okay? And to hold that on mesh is a real nightmare. So all the screens are, the mesh is stretched onto the screen at 22.5 or 58 degrees so that you're not going across the knuckles or across the thread. But that's difficult to do in screen printing on textile. But there are textile printers all over the world that are tensioning mesh on a bias, you know, where it's not square with the frame, okay? There's a bigger cost to do that, but if you want to print really fine, thin lines, that's what you need. You're going to bias. He lost his camera.
I just had a client come in. I got to step away for a second.
Tell your
He's not
client
wearing
to go
pants.
with you.
That's what it is. He had to get up.
We're going to tell your client all about how you're trying to hold quarter point lines.
Exactly. Irfan, did you have,
Listen, I understand the need for a quarter point line, but not on 160. Sorry. There are
No,
some
no,
things
no.
that don't make any sense.
Irfan, did you understand what I was talking about when I talked about efficiency, effectiveness, and
Yes, I was with you.
yeah. I mean, that's
I
important.
feel and see that on approximately weekly basis when I visit different customers, and that was just, that all just recalled my mind, and I was like, that's exactly what we face over here.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's the
educate-
market we have to deal with.
You have to educate the customer. Education, if you don't educate the customer, then you're allowing him to do the most insanely stupid things that you would say, oh my God, you know, like running dual inks through a dryer, you know, just really stupid stuff, you know. Never underestimate that people are going to cause their own failure, okay? They will. But if you are more involved in educating the customer through your promotional materials, and let me give you an example. Any ink company that's in the United States right now, you go and download their technical data sheet, okay? Let's say that they're talking about plastisol ink, and it says mesh specifications.
Yes.
You know what it says? It says anywhere from 110 to a 305. Well, come on, folks. That ink's only going to go through one mesh count and give you the most efficient, effective, and economically viable product. Tell me what that mesh count is. Did you test a bunch of different mesh counts and make the decision that, oh, it works on all of them? No. If you're going to print it through a 305, you're going to have to hit it 3 or 4 times. Through a 110, maybe once, okay? But tell me the one mesh count, the correct, the right way, right thing at the right time. Tell me the right mesh, and they won't do it. They'll give you this wide range. You've seen that, right?
Yes,
On all
yes.
technical data sheets, they give you this wide range. And then when they get to emulsion, they tell you, oh, use this emulsion. But they don't tell you what the EOM is supposed to be, the emulsion over mesh ratio. They won't tell you that. They won't tell you what thickness of emulsion to use over the mesh, okay? So they're beating themselves up by giving people inaccurate information. If you give people accurate information and you say, in order for this to work, you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, you know,
Yes.
Then if they fail, they know that they failed. They didn't do what was required of your product to make it work.
Well,
Exactly as you said. When we visit to customers, we try to explain them. At first, when I was new to the business and new in the industry, it always used to
Listen a lot.
confuse me that why does every supplier has so many whites, for example.
Mhm.
And I learned that, and now I try to teach my customers every time I go there, and they're like, "You have a long list of whites. Are you like out of your mind? A white is a white." And I always explain them that these whites go through different meshes, and if you are using a cotton white, it's gonna give you premium results on cotton, and it's gonna go through lower mesh and all those things. But if you're trying to use a poly white on a cotton and just trying to push it through a 305 mesh, it's a high viscous ink. It's
Yeah.
not gonna work there.
Yeah.
You have to have different whites and different inks for different products.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's important to educate the customer, although it's a very difficult task, but that's the task. That's
Yeah.
what we are all about.
well,
So
sometimes you have
know,
to
for,
go in and in advance tell them to get a couple of screens prepared for you so that you can show them how the same ink is going to not respond the way it's supposed to in randomly, but have 'em, you print a particular ink through all the meshes, then you clean that off and you take a different white and print that
Mhm.
through to show what the difference in resolution is and in vibrancy, etc. Seeing is believing. That doesn't mean they're going to really go forward and jump all over it, but sometimes you have to.
no, but
back up what
that's a
you're
really
saying
good
while
idea
you're doing
to
the
give them an
demonstration.
idea.
One of the things that I do, I carry a 1,000 power microscope with me that hooks up to my my iPhone, okay, and lets people actually see, in minute detail what's happening. You try to sell people ink, and let's say it's a not white, not black, but one of the colors, okay, and you specify that the mesh should be, 156 should give you perfect one stroke coverage on polyester, okay, shirts. And then they call you back and they say, doesn't work for me. And then you find out they're printing blue ink, okay? Well, the difference is, as you probably know from milling ink, is that blue pigment isn't shaped the same as a red pigment, okay? The blue pigment is more like an oval. It's, like a rice kernel, okay?
Yeah.
But, red and greens and other colors, they're more round, okay? So they only need 3 of those ink particles to go through that mesh opening. But blue, you're lucky if you get 1, and you can't break it in half, the pigment is there, And so you're getting ink starvation when you print the blue, So you have to tell people when you're printing blue, you need a bigger mesh opening, But nobody ever tells anybody that.
So,
No ink manufacturer does,
so
I think ink manufacturers beat themselves up by not giving people the right information that they really need to be successful.
well, part of the problem you have to keep in mind is they're looking to sell ink, and there's more to it. Like when I was over India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, nobody ever adjusted their squeegee. Nobody ever changed the hardness of their squeegee. No one ever sharpened their squeegee. And so it didn't matter what they printed, everything was already set. And it's like, yeah, this is good for this particular job, but it doesn't work on every job. And it's like, and then you go to change the angle of the blade and you find you can't even move it because it's so locked in with old ink and with
Old ink.
junk. I mean, it's just amazing. So, even with ink, of course, ink companies want to sell ink, no doubt about it. And squeegee companies want to sell squeegees and so on. The problem in almost any shop, and I don't care where you go, is they don't understand the full package.
I don't think I need to make a point. I don't think ink companies are really all that concerned about selling ink. I think ink companies want to have the very best product in the most hands.
Well, they want, certainly they want, every ink company wants to go into every big shop. Oh, the small shops. Yeah, it's nice when they buy, but if they don't, not the end of the world. But understanding enough about different squeegees, about squeegee angle, squeegee pressure, squeegee speed are all factors. And sometimes you have to go slower to get the quality and the productivity you want.
You want to sell a lot of product. You want people who want to buy your product. Selling is the most expensive thing you can do because you have to go back in and in and in. You have to make 50 visits to the client and help him and hold his hand and train him and educate him in order to make the sale. So you don't want to be selling. You want people to buy your product because they saw it online and it works for everybody, you know? And then you need to give them the little piece of paper that says, here's how you do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. No selling. Let them buy.
I have realized that sometimes it takes approximately more than a year.
Yeah.
1.5 years, approximately 2 years with me, it has happened. Going back and forth
With the
to
big
a
shops.
customer and trying to convince them with the product. But you know, the best part is once that 2-year span or 1-year span or whatever, 1 month span is over, your customer is 100% satisfied with your product.
Right.
And we are very confident when we are selling our product that, okay, we have explained and we have shared all the knowledge and we have learned a lot from that customer.
Right.
There's always learning. Whenever I go to a shop and I explain them, there are things that they tell me is always new to me. So I always listen to them. What are their working parameters? And as Charlie said, a lot of people are not very easily convinced about moving around their operations, like squeegees. They're using the same squeegee with the plastic sole. Either it's wet on wet, using the same one with the water base, using the same one with the discharge. It's just a squeegee to them,
Right.
a material that can drop the ink. But having a round squeegee, having a sharper squeegee, the difference. But definitely the time you spend over there, it's always cashed out if you spend it rightly, if you spend it wisely.
My favorite question when I go into a shop, especially a big one, is show me a squeegee sharpener. And it's like, squeegee sharpener? They make a squeegee sharpener? Oh, no, you want to buy new squeegees every time. Well, we do. We change them every year. It's like you should be sharpening about every week. They don't understand that.
I had a client up in Ohio and outside of, Illinois. He's in Illinois, outside of Chicago. And I mentored him online every day for 10 months. The very first day I asked about his squeegee sharpener. He said, "Oh, we don't have a squeegee sharpener." And I went, "Well, you need a squeegee sharpener. That needs to be the next thing you buy, you know?" And so 10 months go by and he writes me an email one morning. He said, "Squeegee sharpener came in this morning." I said, "Why did it take so long to get it?" He said, "Oh, we just ordered it yesterday. It came today." And he said, "I sharpened the squeegees this morning, threw them in the automatic. Oh my God, Bill, you wouldn't believe the difference. I can do a one-hit white now on black, you know, 10 months.
Are they still $1,000+?
Yep. They are. They're
Yeah.
about $1,300 or $1,400.
Yeah.
And are they worth it? Yeah, they are.
Well, if you get the fee
And
more,
actually, you're going to spend more than that because you really need to get a couple of different blades for it, not just one.
right.
So if it were me, I'd have you get the 120 and the 230 blade. Unless you have horrible squeegees where you need the 60, which I wouldn't really use for anything, but I'd get it with 2 blades.
If you're going to buy one, buy the Feemore product, the diamond.
Yeah.
The green one?
Absolutely.
Don't get the ones with the razor blade cutter. You know,
Yeah, that's they're great for doing streamers to put on the handles of your bicycle.
yeah,
But
not for squeegees.
they're horrible for squeegees. But then again, there are some blades you can't use a Feemore sharpener on
Right.
It melts them. So you pretty much have to stay with femur all the way through, which you should anyway, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I think they're still the best blades ever made.
They are.
But there are other blades on the market, and some of the ones coming out of China look just like a femur blade. They do not respond in the same manner.
It depends on whether they're
Color and
MDI,
everything else.
depends on whether they're MDI or NDI too, you know, so. And you
Irfan,
can't go by color because color varies from manufacturer to manufacturer.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, you got Christmas coming. I guess you can buy yourself a Christmas present.
Yeah,
Hey,
that
Frank,
along with
what-
my new quartz flash and let's see, my donut probe and
Well,
let's
it's
see.
Christmas. I mean, this is what you want. You want a bunch of things under the tree, not just one.
John,
Yeah.
add to that, you need a thickness gauge,
A what?
an electronic thickness gauge,
That too.
$149, best investment you'll ever make. Because if you can't control the thickness of your emulsion, the thickness of your stencil, you can't control the deposit of the ink. So thickness needs
There
probably,
you go. There's your quarter point line.
yeah.
It's called the Delta scope.
I had a great coach in the beginning, and I believe what they taught me has allowed me not to have to buy one of those because I'm so consistent every time I do it.
You ever play basketball?
God, no, look at me.
Football
Okay, you play
player, are you kidding?
football? Played football?
I played soccer.
Soccer, okay. The soccer ball has to be inflated correctly, correct?
Yes.
Usually, yes.
Yeah, well, your stencil needs to be fixed right too.
Either that, or you have to play for New England and have a soft ball.
That's another conversation too.
Well, there you go.
Irfan, when you're selling to your customers and you come to our generation that we represent, you will also have another problem with, yeah, we do it better in house.
Oh,
Isn't it so?
you know,
We know what's best. When you go out to dinner with your mom, and she will probably say, well, I can do that much cheaper and better at home. Isn't it so?
Yes, we face this sometimes, and you know, it's at my age when I go to a customer and he is the owner of a print shop from, like you, for example, from your age. It's very difficult for them to convince them to take us seriously because first of all they look at the situation like, come on, boy, I have been in
I know how to
business
pitch that to
your
them.
age. So you're gonna tell me now? So,
You need to powder your hair and make it gray, and that way you'll be able to convince them that you're old enough to understand what to do.
Or
I,
shave
I,
your head like
I try
Charlie.
to wear a cap when I go in there, so they just don't see my hair, man.
So there was
So-
a guy in the industry who unfortunately passed away, Mark Bennett, who had some great
yeah.
lines. But I was going to see a customer up in Canada, and he said, "Oh, you're going to have to work with Harvey. Harvey's been doing this for 10 years." I said, no, you know what? Harvey's been doing this for 1 year, 10 times.
Yeah,
The problem that you run into with some of the older shops is they've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah, they have. They've been doing it the way they did 20 years ago. And that's where the problem comes in, is things have changed in the past 20 years, or even in the past 10 years, or even in the past 3 years. And so, you know, it's a difficult task sometimes to get them to understand that things do change. You know, ask them if they're driving a car or do they have a horse and buggy.
A little about the
Horses
sales
get you
pitch
from one place
that
to
I was
another.
going to. Yeah, a little about the sales pitch was that to educate a little and to help this person that you try to sell to make the right choice and make it his discovery, then it would be still in-house progress, not from outside the change. So he can take the credit for this new choice that we just made with your
Called
help,
buy-in.
education.
Yeah, it's called buy-in, Costa.
You know, sometimes I remember back when I first started to sell, because I moved to Denver. The company I went to that I was plant manager for went bankrupt. So I got there in August, and in December they let me go, and in February they were bankrupt. But I remember I got hired the next day by a supply house saying, you know, like to hire you as a salesperson. I'm thinking, I don't know how to sell. I don't know the first thing about sales, and I never looked at myself as being a salesperson. So rather than moving back to New York, I figured, you know what, let me give this a whirl. So one of the first customers that I went to see was a guy by the name of Stan Began. He owned one of the largest shops in Denver. Not that they were large, because my shop in New York was bigger than any of them here, but I went in there and he was a big guy, and he said, what do you want? I said, well, I'd work for this particular company. I'd like to try and sell you some screen print supplies. And he said, I'm not interested. Get out of here. And so on my way out, I took a look, and he had a black shirt that he was working on. And I said, that your print? He said, yeah. I said, it looks like shit. I figured, what do I got to lose? You know, he's already booting me out the door. And so his comment to me was, you think you could do better? I said, what do you think? Do you think I can do better? I know I can do better. He said, well, you show me how you can do better and I'll buy from you. I said, well, I'll be back tomorrow because I got to put on some decent clothes for working. And I'm not, you know, as a salesperson back in the early 80s, you did wear a jacket and tie and slacks and stuff. And so came back the next
Parachute
day.
pants.
Of course, black shirts are my bread and butter. He became my biggest account because I blew him out of the water. Sometimes you have to be a little bit aggressive. I don't think I would use the same language today, but even if I did, it wouldn't matter. Nobody gives a shit about what I say anymore anyway, in terms of my language, as long as you can perform. But sometimes you have to say, that looks terrible, I can do better. And put them in a position where they have to give you the opportunity to show them that you can do better, so that they know that they can then do better. And you know, it's an interesting sell, and unless you know what you're doing, you could fail miserably if you don't make it look better.
Right.
You know, at that point, you can pretty much kiss off selling to them until they get new management in, or until the owner dies, whichever happens first.
When I was at the New Orleans show about 30 years ago, the SGI show,
I was
we
there.
went, a group, yeah, you were there. A group
I-
of us, I took a group of people from,
Huh?
I took a group of people from a seminar that I was giving on, you know, improving your images on t-shirts, black t-shirts. And I took them to a shop down in the French Quarter, and the guy had about 600-700 designs in that shop, you know, big shop. And I took them over and I picked up a black shirt, had a Marie Laveau voodoo shirt. It was white stipple on a black shirt. And it was horrific, you know? And so we were standing there and I was educating the people that I brought with me about it. And I said, this is terrible. You know, this could be done this and this and this. And so the owner of the shop walks over and he says, what's wrong with that shirt? And I said, what's right with it, you know? And so I was explaining it to him. And he said, you think you could do better? You got a print shop? And I said, yes, I have a print shop. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I have the art, the film positives for that job right there that you're looking at. I'll give you the film positives. You take them back to Austin, Texas, and you print the shirt and you send it back to me. And if I like it, you got all my business. I don't like the printer I got now anyway. 1 hour in walking to that shop and showing those people and getting that job and walking back, I just got orders for 670 designs. And we went with that guy for 5 years. Unbelievable number of shirts, you know?
And all of it was just for Mardi Gras,
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah. Yeah.
Gentlemen, it's been a fun day. Irfan, stay on. I need to chat with you for a moment.
All right, I'm good.
I don't know if you guys want to do anything more, but so I have Dane Clement coming on January 5th. So if you've got art questions and stuff, bring them along. Sean, it was always good to see you. I'll chat with you as well. Let me know. I'll let you know how I do with my stuff when I get that emulsion in. And I am not, I'll have somebody kick out a 1/4 point line, but I'm not looking to hold it. I'll get some artwork put together. I'll send you the print that I get out of it. But if you
Yeah.
guys have anyone that you want me to bring on, Bill, did I ever ask you to be a guest on this?
No.
Oh,
I'm,
why don't I ask you to be an actual guest?
no, I am a guest right now.
Well, no,
And
you're
I'm
not,
acting as a
you're not
guest.
the featured guest.
No.
So what I'll do is once 2 weeks after Dane, if you're interested, I'll send you a link and
Yeah.
we'll put you on.
Okay, no problem. I'll be here anyway. I'm not
That's
going
fine.
anywhere.
Look forward to that.
Yeah,
Terrific.
thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you. And by the
Well,
way,
good to see you, Bill. It
this
was
is
good
all
to see
going on
you.
my
Yeah,
web-
good to see you.
I've got all this going
Have a
on. my
wonderful
website.
Christmas weekend.
If you want to,
Nice to meet you, Costa.
if you want to review anything, it's on my website under Charlie's Corner now. So I've got all the, well, I've got all the recordings that I've done. So terrific. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
I got one question, Charlie.
For it.
What was he trying, what substrate was he trying to get a 1/4 point line on?
No, he was just testing out emulsion and he watched a video that Zaidi put out on emulsion. And they were saying that you can use a high pressure washer on any emulsion, SBQ or pure polymer, et cetera. Well, I've always played with pure polymers where you wash the t-shirt side, not the ink side. You wet both sides, but you don't blast away on the inside.
You never want to blast on the ink side.
Now on these new emulsions, they're saying, yes, you can. And that's why I'm having them send me some.
Well, I saw that too, and I put it up to just ignorance.
Well,
They made a mistake.
uh,
you know?
well, I was on with Ross Balfour and he's saying,
Yeah,
yeah, you should
know.
be able, huh?
He should know.
Well, and he's saying you can wash out with high pressure. I said, well, great. Send me the emulsion so I can do my own playing because I need to do it to be convinced.
It seems to me that since most of the emulsion is on the bottom and there's very little emulsion on the top of the screen, that if you wash from the top, you're going to blow it off.
Well, I'm going to find out because they're claiming that you can do this. They're saying that the new emulsions are a harder substance emulsion. And
Yeah.
so I'm with you. I always wash my SBQs just from the t-shirt side. I
Yeah,
blast
well-
it, but only from the t-shirt side. I want to play with this and see what happens.
Yeah, copy me on your results.
I'll let you know. I'll on my next set, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, okay.
Terrific. Have a good one now.
Bye, folks. I'm out of here. Leave.
Richard, we still got you on, huh? Irfan. So I did speak to Eric. He's willing to do 2 years. No problem. He may have people in some of the other countries, so that wouldn't count for you. But anything that would come out of Pakistan, whether you wrote the order or someone tried to go around you and order directly, you would get credit for it.
Okay.
So
Okay, that's
what I'm going to
right.
do is I'll write you and Eric, I'll email both of you so that
Okay.
you can speak to Eric and work out the specific details, et cetera.
Okay. And then I will also ask Eric to send me some promotional material on the email, some brochures or anything I can print out and start giving to my sales team so they can start going out and we can start to get people feedback and just give it a push and see how it works. Because now the working season is going to start in March in Pakistan by the end of February or March. So I want to get this done after the Christmas holidays from
Right.
January.
Yeah, this is definitely not the time to do it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'll be doing my testing of my new wall. I do have
Yeah.
drawings of it, but I want to actually show it in action.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of video on my website,
Okay.
including for the double squeegee and roller squeegee, and I'll have this one posted on my website as well. I can send you, or I can tell you which ones to go on to my website and make copies of,
Okay.
or have them sent to you.
Okay.
And certainly I'd be happy to help out if I can.
I will be in touch with you because I will need your support with these products. I will need to understand them more so that I can explain my customers more wisely in a better position.
Sure,
So
I'd be happy to help out. Not a problem.
honestly speaking, I'm just waiting for this COVID problem to just go away. So I
Of
am
course,
planning to come,
we all are, without a doubt.
and I'm planning to come to US. And I have it's in my plan that once these things are over, I will be visiting you
Okay,
to have a few. I'll be bringing my products and to show you and have your opinion on those. And with this wall and everything to understand more, I have a customer over there. We can arrange a shop or whatever is needed so that we can sit down. Because when we are sitting on a table with products in our hand, the discussion is going to be altogether different.
of course, listen, showing samples are very nice, but and explaining them, that's all wonderful, but the proof is in the pudding. I really want to see you print it in order for me to believe it. And I understand that. And that's when I go into a factory, when I get hired, we do have a sit down. We talk about where help is needed, but ultimately it's going out on the factory floor and actually doing it that counts. And it makes it easier to sell a product, number one, but also it makes it easier for those who are in the shop to know how to use it correctly because they're now going to see it. And I do go through a lot of documentation with that. So whether it's
The thing that
product or your ink or whatever, it doesn't matter to me.
okay, and the thing that I see is that for me, selling is not a difficult task. I'm pretty confident I can do that. But like experts like you, I like showing the product and having the feedback on how can I improve it, because there is always a room for improvement.
Without a doubt. Listen, things change all the time. Even this whole thing with emulsion. I know, and it sounds like Bill would also go along with what I did, which was always washing the t-shirt side on an SPQ emulsion and not the ink side. Well, now they're saying you can wash it from both sides. Okay, will I believe that? I need to test it on my own in order to believe it. And not arguing it, but I need to do it myself. I can't take somebody else's word for something that goes against what I've been teaching for a long time. If it's a newer emulsion and it can do that, that's great. On the older emulsions, I'm still going to stick with what I always taught. Same thing with squeegees and the same thing with squeegee. Trying to teach someone squeegee angles is really difficult to make an ink look really good. Getting them to understand the hardness of the squeegee and the angle and the speed is everybody wants to go fast.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You can only go as fast as your slowest squeegee.
Yes.
So why have the others go
fast?
Why have anything go faster than that? And so I don't, but that's part of my deal. In any event, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much
happy
for
anniversary.
having me as a guest. And thank you so much. And I wish you advance greetings for the new year. And on the 26th of December, I hope someone from you or your family should be at home probably. Will you be home or nobody will? 26th of December.
The 26th, I'm home. Well, the 25th of December is the Pakistan Liberation Day or Independence Day.
25th, yeah, it's the founder's birthday.
Okay, because when I worked in Pakistan, it was over Christmas, and our boss said to me, "It's going to be Christmas," and I said, Yeah. I said, you're Muslim, you're what? I said, you celebrate Christmas? He said, no. I said, well, look, I'm Jewish. I don't celebrate Christmas either. So it doesn't matter to me. So I happen to
Yeah.
be in Pakistan on Founders Day or whatever that was, which I found interesting to be closed on the 25th because, you know, even if you were
Yeah.
Christian, you would be off on the 25th.
I had a customer who was just surprised yesterday. I was like, we are going to be closed on the 25th. So we are going to ship your products probably on the 27th or on the 28th. And he was surprised. He was like, you're closing for Christmas in Pakistan. So I had to tell him, no, it's not about Christmas. It's the same date, but it's this occasion. So it corresponds with this one.
It was great going out
Anyway,
for high tea on that day.
I look forward to meeting you, Charlie. You have always been a mentor, and it's always great listening to you. You have always, I have learned from you a lot, and that's what inspires me.
Well, I'm
I
looking
look
forward
forward
to,
seeing you shortly.
who knows, maybe somewhere down the road we'll collaborate and work together. We'll see what happens.
I hope so. I hope
You,
so.
you need to get some sleep and I need to go and get some food. So have a good
All
night
right.
and
Have a good day.
we'll be in touch. I will be either texting or emailing you.
All right. We will be in touch.
Terrific.
Take care.
Have a good one now.